Hey friends, welcome back to Call Me After Coffee. My name is Bree. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been around for a while, thanks for coming back. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some fall, autumn recommendations. These are some books that just kind of scream fall weather to me. This is just a small stack of books that I think feel like good autumn reads, or ones that I would recommend to read in the fall / autumn, whatever you want to call it, time. So I'm going to jump right in. The first couple are classics. This one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I loved this book. I guess some people do think it's a romance and they love it, but I did not. This is not a romance. This is a tragedy. This is like a really bad cycle of abuse that's written so amazingly well that you just can't put it down. You don't really like anybody, but you also can't look away. It's like watching a train wreck or something. Like you don't want to see it, but you need to know what happens. And this is definitely a book that I'm going to revisit at some point in the future. Honestly, probably not this year because I don't have any time to do anything anymore. But Wuthering Heights just made such a special place in my heart, and it was so sad and so brutal and just so well done. I loved this book so much. I did not expect to like it as much as I did when I first started picking, like when I first picked it up. I assumed it would be one that it would be kind of a dud for me. I don't know why I thought that. I just assumed that I probably wouldn't like it. And then I ended up absolutely loving it. So this is definitely one that feels like fall to me. And then next on the list, I have Jane Eyre, which has those similar like kind of gothic-y feeling vibes. Also, like, this one's kind of a romance, but also kind of not. And it's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be when I first picked it up. I feel like a bunch of dust just came off of it. Sorry about that if that showed up in the camera. I really enjoyed this book. This is one I also need to reread at some point because I read it a couple years ago now, and it was one of the first classics that I read and actually really enjoyed and actually like understood and like got, because I was starting to like really get the feel of the old style writing. And this is one I definitely need to revisit now that I've read some more classics and go back and just re-experience this, because it was also, I thought, a really beautiful story. I really did love it. I loved the characters, and I just really enjoyed Jane Eyre. And then I have The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I feel like I read this for the first time in the summer, I think, but something about this book, maybe because it goes through all the seasons, but because a lot of the book, it just feels really cold. I feel like this could be a fall or winter read, really depending on when you get to it, but I really loved The Book Thief, and I feel like a lot of people do. There's some people who really hate it, but I loved The Book Thief. It made me sob. It's like most of these books, pretty much every single book in this stack deserves a reread at some point. That's why I'm putting them in this video, because I loved them all, and I can't say enough good things about them. But I loved The Book Thief. In case you're unfamiliar or you've been living under a rock, it's a World War II historical fiction about a family who hides a Jewish man in their basement during World War II, and it is just so heartbreaking and beautiful and sweet, and I just adored it, and the ending just left me like a sobbing pile of tears. Next on the pile is one of my favorites from this year. It's The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I really enjoyed this book. I was not expecting it to be like to blow me away the way that it did. Like, I love this book so much. It was just so intriguing and so unputdownable. And I read, oh man, what was the other one called? Once Upon a River. And if you guys have been around for a while, you know. Anybody new probably doesn't. But I read Once Upon a River, and there were things I liked about it, things I didn't, and I think it was like a 3-star book for me. Like, there were things that I thought were really well done, and I loved the atmosphere, but also it was a little hard to follow and a little bit like almost maybe convoluted, if that's the right word. I don't know, kind of like, I don't know, too much was going on. I don't know. But this one I loved. I thought this one was like a masterpiece. I couldn't put it down. I loved every single page. It's about this older woman, and she tells her life story to this girl who is also a writer. I think she just works in a bookstore or something. I can't remember. I read this like way back in maybe January, but it was so good. If you are sensitive to triggers and things, you might want to look up trigger warnings for this. There is some weird stuff in it, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. I couldn't put it down. I adored it. And I think actually Katie from Life Between Words was another person who really enjoyed this one. Anna Murphy also said that she loved this one. I really loved it, and it surprised me, and maybe that was why I loved it so much, but this is definitely high up on my recommended list. Next we have Nevermore, which I feel like I also read in the wintertime. I think it was cold out when I read this, but this one just feels like a fall book to me. I don't know why. This, maybe just fantasy in general feels fall, I don't know, but I really loved Nevermore. If you haven't read Nevermore, it's about this little girl who is kind of like bad luck in her town or whatever, and then she gets swept away to this other land. She's supposed to die on her 11th birthday. Will she, won't she? What's going on? It has such an awesome cast of characters, and it's so good. It's so good, guys. I've talked about it a lot recently, I think. Not for a couple months, apparently, because I haven't posted anything in a while. But if you've heard me talk about Nevermore, you know that I really loved it. Currently reading the second book and loving it. So I hope that you guys pick this up and enjoy it as much as I did. And then I have The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender, which I think I read, could have been 2017, could have been 2018. Can't remember. But I really, really enjoyed this one. This is another one. Pretty much all these books surprised me in some way or another. But The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender is a magical realism, or I don't know, I guess there's other descriptors for it now. There's lots of subgenres, and I'm not the best at categorization, let's be real. But this book is like a generational story of these women who have just a lot of sorrow in their family. Like each generation has some form of like sadness that's coming through, and there definitely are like magical realism elements, like things that just happen where at first I was kind of like, wait, what? And then I reread it and I'm like, no, that really did happen. So going into this one, you kind of have to, what's the phrase, like suspend disbelief, and just kind of roll with it. This is definitely one of those ones where it feels real life, but then these random things happen, and in some instances they could be jarring, but if you know that they're coming, it's just a neat story. This is also another one where if you like to know triggers, you should look them up, because there are definitely some for this one. You guys know, I don't like to put them in the videos because I don't like spoilers, but this is definitely one you might want to look them up for if certain things you don't like in books. Anyway, I love this one, thought it was great. It was a very fast read. This is one of those ones that kind of leaves like an open ending. I don't know if that's spoilery or not. I don't really think it is, which aren't my favorite endings, but I still really enjoyed the story and I thought it was really good. And last but not least, we have Things in Jars, which is like a historical fiction magical realism. One of the main characters is a ghost, and we follow Bridie Devine, I think that's the main character's name. And this one was actually blurbed by Diane Setterfield, which I thought was funny because 13th Tale, one of my favorite books of the year, Things in Jars, blurbed by Diane Setterfield, which I usually put zero stock in, but loved it as well. This one was so good. This one made me laugh, it made me cry. Cora and her friendship with Bridie are awesome. Bridie and Ruby, I think it's Ruby. Their friendship is awesome. The story is good. There are sad parts. It's eerie and quirky, and it's just so cool. It's so cool. Can't say enough good things about it. Another book that's gonna end up on my favorites of 2020 list. Literally can't say enough good things about this. I loved it. Read this along with the audiobook, and the narrator is fantastic. She has such a great accent. She does such a great job with the characters. So good. I loved listening to it. It's actually like what kind of sparked my interest in audiobooks. Like for a while I was kind of like not into them, and now I definitely am starting to find my groove. And some books I really enjoy on audiobook and sometimes some I really don't. But this one was great, both versions. Physical copy and the audio, both superb. Great story, super interesting, mystery element, so good. Alright friends, that's all I've got for my autumn reading recommendations. I hope you guys got some good ideas. Let me know down below, like, what book screams fall or autumn to you. Like, drop a comment down below. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss future notifications. I do upload most Mondays and Thursdays, and I will talk to you guys all soon. Thanks so much for watching.